Hello everyone and welcome to the inaugural video of the Know the Law YouTube channel, where we will attempt to take a closer, more in-depth look at the laws that govern our great nation. Like many of you who are watching this video, I spent the past few months during the COVID pandemic exploring different hobbies and interests to pass the time. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, with very little being accomplished in the U.S. Congress, I decided to ponder the question, what do our elected politicians accomplish, if anything at all, to justify the $174,000 they earn each year for their salary? So as I tried to find an answer to this question, I came across two websites that provided a great deal of information and insight into what our politicians are actually doing. When I realized that not only the amount of information that was available, but how much of it is actually unknown to the world, I decided to attempt to create this YouTube channel to bring awareness to some of the important legislation that may not get as much attention that it deserves. So in future videos, I hope to explore in more detail about what bills have been introduced into Congress, what laws have recently been passed, who are the people that we have elected to make these laws, and more importantly, how these laws affect the daily lives of U.S. citizens. So to get started, I want to briefly show you all about what we can discover on this channel in future videos. One awesome website to explore other than the official Congress.gov website is govtrack.us. Again, govtrack.us. Now, govtrack.us has been around since 2004, and what it does is it tries to create a more succinct layout of how to search not only legislation, but how to search what a particular congressman is doing. So if we go to the website here and take a look, you can explore a little bit and see for yourself what type of search parameters they have available. But you can search by bill, you can search by area, you can search by committees, and so forth, roll call votes. And it it is similar to the official Congress.gov website, but I think it provides a little bit more detail that is user friendly and it's easy to notice. So, for example, the top tab here, we have next to the home tab, bills and votes. And if you click on it, there's a section called bills and resolutions. And when you open that up, you can the main page that it shows is bills that are coming up, some of the bills that are trending, and also the bills that are basically the hot bills, the top bills that are being tracked by users. And you can see on the list that is currently available is a lot of them has to do with the COVID-19 testing and the financial assistance offered to by the government for those who need it during this time. But also, you can see other legislation dealing with gun violence, with dealing with regulating marijuana, and even a resolution proposing an amendment to the United States Constitution to abolish the Electoral College. So there's plenty of legislation available, and most of it just doesn't get noticed in the news on a regular basis. So my goal here is to kind of look at these different types of legislation and see why they're important and how we should be supporting them and bringing awareness to them in order to make our lives hopefully better and more improved as a society. So there is a Find a Bill tab on this page. And if you scroll down, you can see there's an advanced search link, and that's the one that I would recommend everyone looks into. Now, with the program that I'm using to record this video, um, when I click on a Dropbox drop-down menu, it doesn't allow me to show the actual contents in the drop-down menu. So I apologize for that, but there's different search parameters that you're able to use, which I think will come in handy. So for example, in the Congress search parameter, you're able to search by the current session of Congress or past session of Congress. and it's organized by years. Um, and the current session, of course, is the 116th Congress, which started in 2019 and will end in January 3rd, 2021. Um, and you can also search by a specific sponsor of a bill. So that would be the elected representative or senator. For example, if you wanted to, let's say, look at Senator Lindsey Graham sponsored 52 bills in the 116th Congress. And out of those 52 bills, only one has been signed into law by President Trump. So if you're interested to see the progress that is made by a specific congressman, you're able to do that as well. Now, for this video, because I just want to provide a simple introduction, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of everything that you can do, but I do want to just show you some simple things. So, for example, in the bottom search bar here, or the left-hand search bar, it has two different options that you can search by for the 116th Congress. Um, and it says here that enacted, which means enacted laws, that bills that have been signed by the president into law, it shows that there's been 182 bills that President Trump has signed during the 116th session of Congress, which is, of all things considered, historically relatively low. Um, uh, uh, on average, a session of Congress is over 250 pieces of legislation. So, but we'll cover that in a later video, hopefully. But for today's video, I want to talk about the bills that are currently sitting on President Trump's desk, meaning these bills have passed both the House and the Senate, and they're waiting for presidential signature. So if I click on that, these 11 bills will pop up on the screen, and we can then browse through them and see what's available, and maybe see the progress, if anything, that's been made, and maybe come to a conclusion of why they might be holed up. Of course, it's the election season right now, so it's no surprise that President Trump hasn't signed anything into law at this time, but we can expect something to happen relatively soon after the election. So just going through the list of what we have here, it says that there are 11 bills that are currently on the president's desk. Looking at the first bill, which is House Resolution 2359, titled Whole Veteran Act. It was introduced on April 25th, 2019. And it was introduced by Connor Lamb, who is the representative of Pennsylvania's 17th congressional district, and he is a Democrat. And so basically, you have different options available to see what this bill is all about. It provides a little bit of an overview, and it tells you the status of what's happening. It also provides certain position statements from members of Congress about what this bill means and what their thoughts are on it. For example, you have a position statement from not only the sponsor of the bill, but you have one from Representative Brian Fitzpatrick and Representative Robert Latta, um, uh, who are Republicans supporting this bill. And if you look here, there's a summary tab that provides a little bit more detail about what's in the bill. And specifically for this one, you can see it's a bill that requires the Department of Veterans Affairs to report on the implementation to the whole health approach to healthcare. And this holistic approach is basically dealing with mental health and making sure that our veterans have better healthcare in regards to their service and what they may have dealt with during their time. So you're able to see a little bit more details about the bill, specifically who sponsored it or co-sponsored it, what committee it was assigned to. If there's a roll call vote, that would be listed here to see how people voted for the bill. You can see the text of the bill as well. and it provides a little bit more detail from a legal perspective of what the bill includes and what is sitting on President Trump's desk. So with that, we're going to go back to the list that we have available. That was just one out of the 11 that are currently sitting on the president's desk. There's another one from the Senate, Senator Richard Burr, Republican from North Carolina. And Senator Richard Burr is the senior senator of North Carolina. And his bill is to designate the airport traffic control tower located in Greensboro, North Carolina, as the Senator K. Hagan Airport Traffic Control Tower. So it's basically a name change bill. And like most of these bills, those tend to go relatively quickly. As you can see, this bill was introduced on September 30th, 2020, which is a month ago, and it's already sitting on the president's desk. So these are usually done by voice votes, and they don't really take a roll call vote because they're dealing with specific places within the senator's jurisdiction. So if you do click on Richard Burr, though, his link, it provides a little bit more background information about the senator, and specifically that he's served in the Senate since January 4th, 2005, and he's currently up for re-election in 2 years in 2022. It also provides any detailed information about any alleged misconduct. So, for example, in March 2020, Senator Burr was accused of COVID-19 stock profiteering by selling stocks based on information learned in non-public briefings. So this information came to light in March, and it provides a little bit more background information to what's going on with this particular congressman, and it provides any links to the story that you may want to know about if you're curious about who this person is that's making our laws. So it's important information for voters to have when making an informed decision. So going back to our list now, some other legislation that's currently sitting on the president's desk is one from another Senator Jerry Moran from Kansas, a Republican, who has a piece of legislation titled Empowering Olympic and Paralympic Amateur Athletes Act of 2020. And that, as you can see, has more co-sponsors than the previous ones, and even I think out of all of them listed here, almost all of them, from both Republicans and Democrats. So that's something to always look at to see how many co-sponsors a piece of legislation has, because that could oftentimes provide clues of to how bipartisan it really is. And then you have some other ones that deal with some, like for example, the Water Supply Enhancement Act of 2020. It's to amend it and basically provide some technical corrections. We don't really need to look at that one. The Inter-Country Adoption Information Act of 2019. That one is, of course, dealing with adoption procedures. If you're curious about some of the information with that, of course, you can look that up. And that's if you want to know more about that piece of legislation, leave a comment below, and we'll look into that for a future video. And going on, you could just see some of the ones that just stick out by their title. For example, Senator Tammy Duckworth from Illinois, a Democrat, sponsored a piece of legislation entitled Friendly Airports for Mothers Improvements Act. And if we click on that, it's basically to require small hub airports to construct areas for nursing mothers and for other purposes. So we'll see if the president finds it worthy to sign. But overall, it's there's no reason at this point not to, unless you're looking at the financial aspect, which we can do with other pieces of legislation at another time. So, for example, one thing that I want to just end on is looking at the last piece of legislation we have here, HR 3399, to amend the Nutria Eradication and Control Act of 2000, 2003 to include California in the program and for other purposes. Now, you see this, and of course, most people won't even pay attention to it. Like, okay, Nutria Eradication and Control Act of 2003. Why should I care about something like that? How does that affect me? Well, it probably doesn't. But for the sake of this video and for future videos, I want to show why we should pay attention to things that, we might at first glance look over. So when I see this and you see Nutria, the first question that comes to mind is, what's Nutria? That's more of a technical term that I'm not really familiar with. I don't use it in my everyday vocabulary. So I had to look it up, and specifically, I looked up, I just did a Google search on Nutria, and basically, what I found out is it's dealing with swamp rats, rats that are very large that live on the coastal regions of land, and this is a major problem in Louisiana and Mississippi in the Gulf, where there's millions of nutria that are bombarding the coastal lines. So in 2003, there was this Nutria Eradication and Control Act that was passed into law, and I did just a quick search on it, and basically the law authorized the Secretary of the Interior, which is a member of the President's cabinet, to provide financial assistance to the states of Maryland and Louisiana for a program to implement measures that, one, eradicate nutria in Maryland, and two, eradicate or control nutria in Louisiana and other states, and three, restore marshland damaged by nutria. Okay, so you have all these swamp rats. They damage the coastal land, and sometimes they get out of control. And you need to be able to find a way to not only control them, but to repair the damage that they do. Okay, so a law was passed in 2003, and every so often they pass additional laws to deal with the appropriations to fund the bill. It says here the limits of the federal share of the program cost 75%. It prohibits the use of more than 5% of such federal assistance for administrative expenses. So, of all the money that's passed to support this bill, only 5% can go for administrative expenses. Okay. So, we get a little bit more background on what this 2003 law was. But if we go back to this particular piece of legislation that's sitting on the president's desk currently, let's look at some of the more the details with it. Okay, we can see it had some co-sponsors, 6 Democrats, 1 Republican, and we can see that it was more of done by a voice vote. There was no roll call votes. We can see there's some related bills. Okay, that's fine and all, but if we go to the text specifically, sometimes there's information in there that it may go over our heads, but if we take the time to actually read it, it says a lot. And um, basically, we can see that yes, we're adding California to this act. And why California? Well, California, as you know, has been dealing with a lot of forest fires, and that has also caused some of the rodents in the coastal regions to um, invade and do damage to other areas of California. So, of course, it's becoming a little bit more of a problem that they have to deal with. Um, so, beyond the reasons why it should be California or not any other state or Oregon or Washington, um, I want to look at the bottom portion of this and look at the funding a little bit because sometimes this is thrown in there as well. And specifically, it says here in section E that they're going to strike the $4 million that's allocated each year, each fiscal year, to this piece of legislation and increase it to $12 million for fiscal years 2021 through 2025. So that means instead of having $4 million, $4 million for each year for 5 years, equaling $20 million, you're going to have $12 million a year allocated each year, which equivalents out after 5 years to $60 million. That's a $40 million increase in spending for this particular issue. And it's not my place right now to say whether or not that's good or bad. But when we look at the overall spending by Congress and the national debt, yeah, this is very minor in comparison to everything that we spend on. But you want to know why it gets high so quickly is we went from $4 million a year to $12 million a year, assuming this gets signed by the president anytime soon. That's a substantial increase. And so when you have just one bill that has an increase like that and you apply it to multiple bills, then you could see how the national debt can get out of control relatively quickly. So that's how looking at these bills can be a little bit more interesting if we take the time to do so. So feel free to leave a comment below, provide some feedback if there's any particular pieces of legislation that you would like to see analyzed a little bit further. And I hope that you like and subscribe this channel if you want to see more content. And hopefully we will see each other soon. Have a wonderful evening and day. And until next time, YouTube, be well.